So, animated movies in 2020 were interesting. There were a lot of delays and a lot of movies that just went onto streaming services. But even with the lack of releases, there was still some pretty great stuff. And these are my top 7 for 2020. Let's start with A Whisker Away. I only recently watched this one, even though it came out like in December. Though it actually came out in summer in Japan, I think. It's a romance anime about a girl who turns into a cat to see a boy she likes. And on the surface, that seems like a very interesting romance plot, but there are a lot of fantasy elements to it, besides just, turning into a cat. It actually does explore some deeper things about people trying to run away from their problems. And by the third act of the movie, it felt very Studio Ghibli-like. So I would definitely recommend it, especially if you like The Cat Returns. My number 6 is Lupin III the First. I'm only vaguely familiar with the Lupin series. The only thing I've seen of it is Castle of Cagliostro. But this movie, I would say, is very Indiana Jones-like, in more ways than one. I really didn't anticipate the craziness of this movie. And even though it is a 3D adaptation, the designs look gorgeous. They really captured that look of Lupin. My number 5 is a very interesting one, because it's sort of a continuation of an anime. That's right, I have 3 anime in a row for this. Japan did release a lot more compared to other countries for 2020. But my number 5 is Made in Abyss: Dawn of the Deep Soul. Made in Abyss is my second favorite anime of all time. That's mainly because of the music and the world building. My first favorite is Madoka Magica. But for this movie, I can see why they made it into a movie for a continuation, because it's all focused on Bondrewd, which is the villain. And he makes for a very sinister villain. He's a scientist that will do anything, regardless of ethics. I have a hard time recommending Made in Abyss, just the anime in general, because it is a very uncomfortable watch. If you have a strong stomach, go for it, but it's very uncomfortable. And also watch the anime first, or the 2 recap films before watching this one. At my number 4, I have True North. This is a true story about people who escaped the prison camps in North Korea, which the things that are shown in this film are things that are still happening to this day. I would really compare this movie to seeing documentaries about like the Holocaust, except for this is stuff that is happening now. I feel kind of bad for recommending 2 very hard watches in a row. This one overtakes Made in Abyss though, because this is about real life. It does have a very unique style to it, but I think it works. Now onto my top 3. I promise that these 3 are not that hard to watch compared to the last 2. Number 3 is Over the Moon, which is a collaboration from the former Disney animator Glen Keane and a Chinese studio. And you can very much tell it's from former people who worked at Disney because it feels very much like a Disney musical. And the production value does feel very much like a Walt Disney Animation Studios film. And all of the songs are great. I really like them. And all of the character design is very like Disney-esque as well. I love the design of the Moon Goddess. This was made for Netflix, so if you haven't watched it yet, just watch it on Netflix. My number 2 is Soul. This is probably Pixar's most adult film so far. It's about life and death and what it means to be alive. Asking the question, what is life's purpose? Is it for a specific passion, or is it more than that? If you haven't watched Soul yet, I highly recommend it. I'm probably still going to do a review on it at some point. Then my number 1 is Wolfwalkers. Tom Moore can do no wrong. His films are always about Irish folklore, but it works really well with the style. It's a man versus nature plot, but it's also about the English subjugating the Irish, and also about this friendship between this girl who's a wolfwalker and this girl who isn't. Cartoon Saloon always has very amazing visuals, and really I can't wait until their next film, which is called My Father's Dragon. Though that one isn't going to be directed by Tom Moore. Tom Moore has directed Secret of Kells, Song of the Sea, and Wolfwalkers. He didn't direct The Breadwinner, but he did produce for it, since he's part of the producers for Cartoon Saloon or whatever. But still, Wolfwalkers is beautiful, it's amazing, the music's great, the characters are great, everything about it is great. So if you haven't watched it yet, please watch it. Speaking of which, if you haven't watched Song of the Sea or Secret of Kells yet, watch those too. And also The Breadwinner. So those are all of my favorite animated films for 2020. What were yours? Tell me down in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye.